You know, I guess I was just nearly brought to tears as I was listening to the minister's introduction of this bill. And as he spoke and he stated that this Liberal administration would not tolerate abuses and exploitation. And this is, of course, coming from a government who has abused their authority with taxpayers, have exploited taxpayers with their multitude of scandals and abuses on spending, and who have tried to dupe the people of Ontario into thinking that billion-dollar scandal is now worth something to them. So that really, I guess there was some new drama classes in the Liberal caucus last week or whatnot, but any reasonable person would see through the through that facade. Speaker, I do welcome the opportunity to speak to the House on Bill 210. I spoke to it at first reading last week, and as a member from Mississippi Carleton spoke, we have not had time to caucus this bill because of the total state of confusion and chaos of this Liberal administration, changing their bills, changing their patterns and debates. Nobody knows what they're going to do next, not even themselves. But we did have first reading last Wednesday, and now we're into second reading. So, yes, that's right. But I do maintain that this bill is valuable and it is necessary. And as representatives of the people of Ontario, we have an obligation to represent people. We'll see if we can get some of the heckling down here. We do have an obligation to protect the people of this province who cannot protect themselves.
Some of us want to hear this.
And this bill is a good example of legislation that recognizes our responsibilities as representatives. So I once again applaud the government's attempt to protect foreign live-in caregivers who are not or may not be aware of their freedoms and their rights and their responsibilities in this country. That being said, though, and I think it's important to make this point, this bill is to protect the rights and freedom and justice for those foreign live-in care workers. But then, within this very piece of legislation, the government chooses to abandon those very same rights and freedoms and to trample the rights and freedoms of employers in this bill. And we all know that you cannot create justice when you provide for freedoms and justice to one group but harm another group by doing so. And let me just read. Section 34(1) of this bill says, an employment standards officer may, without warrant, enter and inspect any place in order to investigate a possible contravention of this Act or to perform an inspection to ensure that this Act is in compliance with. Now,
That's a shame.
Why do we have to completely dismiss that long-held tradition, that long-held principle of common law that we are afforded? Our Constitution and our common law provides for protection of people within their home. And we have processes to ensure that government can still ensure that wrongdoing is not happening under the exercising and issuing of warrants. So why is it that now this Liberal administration decides that we are going to dismiss 800 years of common law and provide for warrantless entry? And there's another section in the bill where it goes on. This is under section, the revision to the Employment Standards Act, section 92, and it says that the employment officer may enter these residences to determine whether the employer of an an employee who resides in this employer's residence is complying with this Act. So there's no need to even have the thought or reasonable or probable grounds that there is a contravention of the Act. Just they can enter in anybody's home to see if they're in compliance with this Act. Now, that is a far, far stretch. And I do realize that we do need to protect foreign living caregivers from the likes of Ruby Dollars and other Liberal members. However, we cannot dismiss 800 years of Constitution and common law and protection because of one Ruby Dollar among our midst. Right? There may be a few others out there, but we cannot denigrate and dismiss our Constitution because of one individual. I'd like to go on. This revision to the employment standards in this bill, although necessary and valuable, it will be challenged. It is a violation of our Constitution. And we must remember that employment standards officers are not a law unto themselves. All people in this province, there's an expectation of checks and balances. There are no checks and balances under Section 34. This government has given them the ability to breach all our property rights, all our privacy conventions, and all elements of the rule of law. This section violates our Constitution. And just as we want to prevent those 1 in 1,000s, such as Ruby Dollar, we cannot break the law ourselves in this House. Everybody here in this House who votes in favor of this section is choosing to violate our constitutional protections. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen this government, through its history, clearly has little regard for property rights. We've seen on a multitude of occasions where they have brought in this ever-increasing ability for warrantless entry. We've seen it even with the Green Energy Act. We've seen it with the Clean Water Act. And now also in this new bill, the Animal Health Act, there's provisions for warrantless entry. What is going on in the minds of this Liberal administration? Do you believe that the only